few minutes, we'll tell you about a poll that shows the president has support for many of his policies, but there are also many vocal critics. Among them, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who has expressed outrage at the administration's cuts on refugee aid and many other issues. And the Congresswoman joins us now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, good to be with you.
I know that you have many concerns here, but we were talking before the show, and you talked about this end to refugees coming to the United States. These are refugees who are already in the pipeline. We know that you spent 4 years in a refugee camp with your family. Tell us about this, because this is heartbreaking to hear this story.
Yeah, well, the program that was canceled is called the Refugee Resettlement Program. It's the program that my family utilized to get our golden ticket to come to the United States. We currently know that that whole program is halted. What I think worries me the most and what is heartbreaking is especially the Afghan refugees. These are folks whose lives are endangered, who are now considered as traitors by the Taliban because they helped our troops when they were stationed in Afghanistan. And particularly there are about 200 folks in Qatar waiting in Doha to be resettled to the United States.
They were on the verge of getting on a plane.
Yes, these were people who were vetted. They are mostly the family members of active service members or veterans who are citizens of this country. And, you know, to expect them to be back to Afghanistan is to expect them to be killed. And that is not just an immoral thing that we are doing, but it's also, I think, saying on the world stage that if we make a promise, we won't keep it.
You know, that CBS News poll that we're going to talk about in a little bit showed that 59% of those surveyed support President Trump's immigration policies. I know you do not. Your thoughts about that?
Well, we know that we are still on in the honeymoon space. The president has only been in office less than 30 days. Many people don't know fully what is being implemented, and communities haven't felt the impact yet. So I want to see what those polls would look like in the coming weeks and months.
Okay. You personally have been targeted by President Trump in the previous administration when he said you should go back to where you came from. You've obviously been a U.S. citizen for quite some time. That's why you are a member of Congress. But the latest situation is that a Texas Congressman Brendan Gill is circulating a petition to have you deported to Somalia because you told a gathering that undocumented immigrants do not have to answer ICE questions, which is true. Your thoughts about this? I mean, this petition to deport you to Somalia, which is impossible because you're a U.S. citizen, is circulated in Washington.
Well, we just want to correct you quickly. I was not at the gathering. I was giving an interview to a reporter.
Okay,
yes. Just like I'm talking to you right now, and that was mistranslated, and the video was edited to make it look like that I was at this gathering, which I don't even know what the gathering was about. But we do have a right, as members of Congress, to inform the folks who live in our constituencies, and I certainly think that the congressman should know better. He knows, or hopefully he is starting to learn what our Constitution says and the kind of rights that people have regardless of their status in this country.
All right, we talked earlier in the show, and you said Minnesota is really in the crosshairs for all of these budget cuts, especially the NIH grants, because we're one of the states that gets the most. Tell us about your concerns about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really alarming what we're hearing. You know, the University of Minnesota, which does incredible research, might be impacted to the tune of $130 million. That is going to have a huge impact on what our state is able to do. We know that with U.S. aid, Minnesota farmers and Minnesota's economy might be impacted to the tune of $70 million in the commodities that we would sell. And then when you think about employees and our neighbors who work for the federal government, there are about 35,000 who could be impacted.
All right. I want to just ask you about the word we have that you might be running for another office. We do have a graphic that shows how much you won by in the general election in November, you won your race for the 5th Congressional District by 50 points. That's a lot. Do you really think that you can translate that into a statewide race to run for Senator Tina Smith's seat in 2026? She, of course, is stepping down.
Well, I want to say that the senator has been a dear friend and an incredible colleague. We are all very honored to have had her serve our state. The ink is not dry on her retirement, and I think it's too early for us to make a decision. And I'll continue to think about it. And I know that there are other incredible leaders in our state that are thinking about it as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's a long line of very qualified people on both sides who are thinking about running. Well, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for having me.